Right, okay. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come together this afternoon to transact the business of Burleigh County. Rather than coming before you with our plans and asking for your blessings, we also come with a humble heart, coming before you and ask for your guidance and direction. We are grateful for our community. We are grateful for the many blessings as we consider our surroundings. As we think of those who contribute to the welfare and the betterment of our county, those that are seen and unseen who contribute to the welfare of our county, we pray for our law enforcement personnel. We pray for our first responders and their spouses and children. And to the many numerous individuals that work in our healthcare systems and hospitals, clinics, and other responsibilities, we pray for them. We think of the unseen work that is provided by those who come to work each and every day to provide safe streets and highways and flight operations and transportation that bless so many of our people. I pray for those who are in our community who are in need of shelter and employment and health. And this afternoon I pray for knowledge to be seen and wisdom to be revealed for our commission members and chairmen. Would you guide them and lead them in the decisions that are made, and may there be unity and profitability in all these proceedings as the needs and demands of Burleigh County are considered. We ask all these in the name of your dear Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll call the June 16th, 2025 meeting of the Burleigh County Park Board to order. First item on the agenda is roll call of members.
Commissioner Boehm?
Here.
Commissioner Herman?
Here.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Here.
Commissioner Munson?
Here.
Commissioner Bakken?
Here.
Commissioner Schwab?
Here.
Chairman Bittner?
Here. Next item is the approval of the agenda. We got meeting minutes and then Commissioner Munson for the boat ramp. Anybody need to add anything or anything? I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes.
Commissioner Boehm?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Consideration of the May 19th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is
Mr.
second to
Chairman.
approve. Commissioner Woodcock.
I've got, I think it's a change of some kind on the May 19th minutes. About halfway down it says, Bismarck Parks and Rec Director Dave Meyer discussed the dredging quotes received earlier this spring. One quote for dredging was for Kimball Bottoms at $6. I think we should accept that bid right away. And another one for Knifel at $9,750. So I don't know, maybe that's,
Well, 6,000. 6,000.
then just only missing
Missing a zero.
2 or 3 zeros, okay. Well, we'll still take that $6.
So I would accept,
Just that minor change, that's all I got.
Yep.
I would think a motion to approve with that change, with that correction would
Move
be
to
in order.
approve with the correction.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes.
Commissioner Boehm?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes,
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Commissioner Munson, Steckel Boat Ramp ADA upgrade request.
Thank you, Chair. Last week, we opened up bids for both the improvement for the vault toilet, to replace the vault toilet, and for the sidewalks and ready-mix work that we were requesting at the boat ramp. First item is the concrete work. We are requesting to reject that bid. It came in 3 times higher than engineers' estimates for about 200 and some feet of sidewalk and 2 handicap parking stalls. So we would request to reject that bid and go back out for bidding. This go-around, these were the only folks that bid it. The day of bid, we received 3 calls from other contractors that missed the dates, so we rejected them, obviously. But this came in extremely high, and so we're requesting to reject. My motion would be to reject the concrete bid and put it back out for rebid.
Second.
Motion and a second to reject the bid. Any further discussion?
Chairman,
Commissioner Bakken?
for the bid rejection, do you need the reasoning for that as part of the motion?
I don't know if I can, if we need to.
Just for clarification?
Clarification, the rejection of the bid is based on
Beyond the,
beyond the engineer's estimate for the cost of the project.
second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
Commissioner Herman,
Yes.
Commissioner Bain,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox,
Yes.
Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes. Motion carries.
Second item, I would move for approval for the vault toilet replacement from Boom Concrete for $15,064. Their bid was obviously half of the other bid, but they're also, the reason I'm requesting this to be done kind of out of order. It's not the full project, but these folks are coming through North Dakota doing other projects at the same time, which is why we got the price that we did. There no travel is involved in this job.
Is, Chair,
Commissioner
did they, any rationale, sometimes I'm a little curious if it's over half of a bid, so
They're,
just their timing
Their-
lined up?
Their
and
timing
they were
lined
able
up,
to
they're
save?
coming out of, I believe Kansas, don't quote me on that, but they're several states away, and they have a route coming this direction for other projects, including north of us, and so this fit perfectly in their schedule.
Okay, any concerns on any warranty work or anything like that?
No,
coming?
we used, when I was on the park board, we used these folks often.
Move to approve then.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Boom Concrete for the vault toilet. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Herman,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox,
Yes.
Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
Commissioner Bain.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Any other items for the Burleigh County Park Board?
That's all I have. Thank you.
With that, I'll adjourn the Burleigh County Park Board. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now I'll convene June 16th, 2025 meeting of the Burleigh County Commission. We'll call to order. First item is roll call of members, please.
Commissioner Bakken,
Here.
Commissioner Schwab,
Here.
Commissioner Woodcox, Commissioner Munson,
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Here. Nice to see nobody disappeared
In the last few minutes.
Next is approval of the agenda. The only thing that I was going to add is request that County Engineer Hall give us a little bit of an update on 80th Street in his 80th Street upgrade. Turn lanes, just briefly, under 7A. There's no decisions necessary there. And then under the consent agenda, or other business, under other business, Commissioner Woodcox has asked for an item of United States of America, 250th anniversary, July 4th item. So we'll add that to other business. And then we have a Charles White from Arum Capital Ventures concerning an informational presentation on Missouri Valley Complex. So I'd like to add those. Anybody else want any additions or deletions?
Mr. Chair, I would object to the Missouri Valley Complex since we don't have any information up front.
I agree.
We, at the last meeting, we said it would be fine to leave it on the agenda if we had the information up front. We don't have any information.
Okay, I won't argue that. The auditor did ask me if it should be on this one or the next meeting. There was no mention of any information for the packet. So figured it was just a discussion only. There's no decisions to be made on it. If you want to have information, if there's information to provide, do you have any actual information?
I have not received any information.
Okay, so we don't have any information.
Love
How
to
can
have
you
some.
discuss something if you don't have information?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the opening discussion is the other agenda item, so I would be in favor of listening. And if we're gonna have, without having a discussion on it tonight, from a fact-finding perspective, I would like to, because we've pushed this off, I would like to see what they have to say.
Okay, we could always add it to the agenda for the next meeting for actual information, but since I don't know where the person is from, I'm not opposed to hearing what he might have to say, but like I said, when I communicated with the auditor, there's no decision to be made on that at this point.
Correct.
It's only some information, and maybe he has some information to present, but again, there's no decision. And so my preference is to leave it on there, but duly noting the objection, because if we were making a decision on it, I would certainly want to see.
Yeah, we wouldn't make a decision.
Yeah, if there was
No,
a decision to be made at this
Right,
time,
yeah.
I absolutely, if it's not in the packet,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But like I said, I don't know where the guy's from, and it could be from the, I don't know. So, for future reference, we will want to have any supporting documentation in the packet. Okay. Any further changes or anything to the agenda? If not, commissioners?
move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
No.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
No,
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Consideration of June 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes and bills.
Mr. Chairman, I had an opportunity to look at the bills this afternoon, and I read the minutes, and I move that we approve them.
Second?
Motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
yes,
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Consent agenda, we have abatements, special use permits, liquor license renewals. Any items that commissioners want to pull off for discussion? If not,
Move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
yes,
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Next item, number 6, public hearing on a resolution and plan for separating elective office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to elective office of Auditor and appointed office of Treasurer. I will open a public hearing. And the first thing is I would ask if the state's attorney has anything to add to the discussion at this point. Okay. Okay, in your packet, there is the resolution and the plan for separating the offices, and this is a public hearing. If there's anybody wishing to speak on this item, now would be the time. Come to the podium. Just so you know, we're going to have a kind of a gentleman's agreement here on the protocol. We're going to kind of limit the time and make sure we're not getting distracted on issues. So other than that, we're welcome anybody that wants to speak on this item. This is a public hearing on the resolution and plan for separating elective office of Burleigh County Auditor Treasurer to elective office of Auditor and appointive office of Treasurer. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Third and final call. Does anybody wish to speak on this public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Yes, Commissioner Munson.
We have one more scheduled.
I
public
believe
hearing.
so. So I don't think there's any action required on this. Is that right, State's Attorney?
That's correct.
Okay. So the public hearing is now closed, and any other discussion? Seeing none, we will move that forward to the next regularly scheduled public hearing. And we'll move on to item number 7, County Engineer Hall. While you're on your way up here, I did request just a brief update on the 80th Street thing. And then we're going to talk about Northridge Estates subdivision. Welcome, Marcus.
Yes, the first item is 80th Street project. As you know, this is the corner of 80th Street and Highway 10. It was a safety project that we've basically put together for that area. We've noticed an increase in turning movements at that location. We did have a traffic study done. It did require or at least meet the warrants for having those turn lanes. So we let that project, Knife River from Minnesota got that project. They came in, did a really quick job, a really nice job as far as putting everything together. There's still a few things that need to be done. Tomorrow they'll be pouring the bases for the light. We have illumination in that area, not street lights, not turn signal lights kind of thing, but just illumination in that area. They'll be pouring those bases. They also need to pull up the shoulders yet on that, up to the pavement. You'll see rows of dirt along the side. That has to be done. In addition to that, chip seal. Both the chip seal and the pulling the shoulders should be done in the next 2 weeks. Weather dependent, of course, but that's what the timing is right now. After that, we'll stripe that particular project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Commissioners, any questions? Marcus, I had a little comment. Well, a couple comments. First off, I thought that they did I go through there a lot,
Yep.
and I think that the contractor did a good job on the project from the way it looks, and it also seems like they handled the traffic control real well, and I wanted you to know I appreciate that. The only concern that I had is it seems to me that there's quite a bit of pavement breaking up on 80th Street from 10 in the southbound lane.
The existing pavement, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have
Some
to
of
take a
it-
look at that, yeah.
Some of it was breaking off and falling into the thing, and then I noticed quite a bit of,
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that, so.
okay. All right, thanks for the update. Northridge Estates subdivision.
Yeah, Hay Creek Township has requested that Burleigh County create a special assessment district for Northridge Estate subdivision. The work that we're planning on, or that they would like us to perform in that particular subdivision, is some extensive patching work out there, and then a microsurfacing application to the existing roadway. They would like the county board to move forward with the special assessment project. There is a proposed resolution in the packet. The first step in this process is basically directs the county engineer to prepare an engineering report on the nature of the project, purpose, feasibility, and estimated probable cost. Now, you will notice that this is different than the process we normally follow. Normal process is that I work with a champion out in an area. We develop a petition. They take that petition out, get signatures of at least 60% of the people. We bring that in, and then we start this process to a certain extent. We have done, it is allowed to have the governmental entity to move forward without that petition. You can move forward and do that, and Hay Creek Township has requested that we do that. Now, we've done this twice where we've moved forward without a petition. We did this exact same subdivision, a chip seal, back in 2011 without doing a petition. Went ahead, went through the process, had a public hearing. At that time, I don't think we had any residents opposed to that particular SAD. Went ahead and established it and moved forward. We've also done a special assessment district in Gibbs Township. That was only like 2 years ago where the township asked us to move forward with that process. So we established one there. That went also very well. That was a chip seal and some repairs on that project too.
Okay. Marcus, just for clarification to the public, before that moves forward, there will be a public hearing scheduled, And we'll have a chance to determine sufficiency of protest or anything like that with the project.
Absolutely, yes.
So what's the, I guess for the public's benefit, what's the threshold for the project to move forward?
Well, there is no theoretical threshold that requires us to say no, yes.
Like a percentage?
You know, from your perspective, I would think that if you had at least 40% of the residents coming in and rejecting it, then that would be something that I would say that really doesn't meet our criteria we've used on all our other subdivisions.
Right, so
You
in
know,
general, we've looked at a
Yeah.
60%.
60% is what we've always tried to maintain at least. And we have done that, at least 60% on all that. But from a dollar perspective, there is no criteria.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
So describe your resolution.
yes, there's just a proposed resolution in the packet, and this is just the first step. If you look through the whole process in the Century Code, this is just the first step that needs to be done. And really, all it is directing us to move forward, establishing a number for the SAD. That will be 77, I think, or somewhere in that realm that we've done, and directing me to prepare a report. So I look in detail at the cost associated with this particular project. Is it feasible to do this particular project? Those kind of things. And then report that all back to the board. And then the board gets to make the decision if you feel this is worthy enough to move forward. And at that point, you make the decision. If it's worthy enough to move forward, then we'll set a public hearing date and we'll go ahead with and have a public hearing on it.
I move to approve the resolution to create a SAD up there. And whatever else he said you're gonna do.
Second. And whatever else he said.
In other words, you're moving the resolution.
I am looking at the proposed resolution instead of reading it, just so they know that is what the motion is on.
Yep.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Marcus. I only questioned why you had in there the word required to create the numbers instead of like authorized or. Okay. Didn't really want to require you to do it if you had a problem with it, but. Okay, now we have commission continued items. In front of you, Mary dropped off some, couple of items discussing the process for approving change orders. And she has a form here, and it's highlighted that commission needs to decide the amount. This amount was used for the courthouse remodel. So commissioners, any conversation on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock?
I think we had this, the $50,000 limit was on the courthouse that we remodeled several years ago, and that worked out fine. We never had any problems. I think there was only one change that we made that was more than that we had to bring to the commission, and we did, and it was approved, so this looks good to me.
Good.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I would move to approve the Burleigh County change order form for the remodel at Provident Building.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the form. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Reimbursement resolution for Provident Building renovation. 75 to 80. Welcome, Lee.
Good evening, Chair Bittner and Commission. When we spoke last meeting, we discussed funding options for the Provident Building. One of those options was, just mentioned briefly, was the BND Infrastructure Revolving Loan Fund. Just as an update, we submitted our application for that fund last week. So that is done. That's not to say we're going to get approved, but we're submitted. Before I go on with the refunding resolution, does anybody have any questions about the BND Infrastructure Revolving Loan Fund?
No, I don't think there's any questions. Probably just reiterate the amount. I think it's in the amount of, there's a cap on it of 5 million, right?
Correct.
If you get selected or what have you.
Yep, they've, I shouldn't say because I don't exactly recall. I think there was maybe a little bit less money than they were anticipating this round, so they capped it. And there's a lot of interest, of course. And so it's capped at 5 million per application for this funding round. The rates are 2%, and the term is the lesser of 30 years or the useful life of the project. I think you have a maximum of 20 million that you can have outstanding on this program at any given time. I do believe we have some for the Hall Road, the Mackenzie Hall Road, and then possibly for one special assessment district, but we're nowhere near the cap. So I don't know when we'll hear back on that, but I already got a response with some follow-up questions, so they were very, very quick, very responsive.
So the end on that is kind of the end of June? The
My notes
closing
here
date?
say June 20th, but I think that was in an email, but I think I also saw June 30th, so
Okay.
end of June.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know how soon after that we'll know. They score these things, so they've got a whole criteria, and I think we meet some of the criteria. One of the criteria is they want to offer gap funding, and they want to leverage other sources of revenue to, probably do a bigger project than they could do with the fund alone. So because we're using the ARPA funding, that will check one of the boxes. And so it's definitely gap funding, but it's also going to leverage those federal funds that we've earmarked for this project. So the actual topic here was I think I put reimbursement resolution. I should have read refunding resolution. This is a continuation, as I said. Last meeting, we got charged by the commission to go ahead and, I guess, inquire more with our bond counsel about this refunding resolution and then bring it back. So I emailed our bond counsel, Scott Wagner, and I did include a question that I think Commissioner Bach and I think you had, asked the question if by passing this resolution we are obligating ourselves to issue bonds. And the answer I got from bond counsel, which is in the packet, is no, we're not. So again, one of our funding options, it's just an option, is tax exempt bonds. These require a refunding resolution according to the U.S. Treasury regulations. That resolution is in your packet. I had a couple blanks to fill in as far as the amount. I put the whole amount of the project, 16.5 million. I wouldn't anticipate we'd get to that amount, but I figured we should or maybe it would be best to just do a resolution for the full amount, and I think we can go anywhere up to that amount, because I believe that language is in the resolution. I don't think we're obligating ourselves to that amount. I think it's an up to. I don't have it right in front of me here, but approximately. Estimated to be approximately, so we got it both ways, estimated and approximate.
Sure.
But if you wish to have a different number in there, it's your resolution.
Well, I don't see any harm in having the amount in there at that amount, because pretty sure we're not going to use that amount anyway, but it's just paperwork, right?
That was my thought.
We can change it at any point. There's no, there's nothing that's chiseled in stone with that, so.
I didn't want to have a blank in the resolution,
Right.
quite honestly, when it was in the packet, so I just filled it in.
Okay. For what it's worth, I think it's good to keep our options open as we're discussing the methods of payments and figuring out the best rates and the best path forward. So, commissioners, do you have any further questions of Lee on that? What are your wishes?
I would move to approve the resolution relating to the issuance of bonds and the reimbursement of expenditures.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
you're sure this resolution does not commit us to any bonding at all? We have that authority down the road, correct?
That's-
If we decide to do that way?
That's correct. If you, I'm not sure if you have the resolution up in front of you, but I
do.
do have I included an email from bond counsel, and what he said is, the resolution does not commit the commission to issue bonds or even move forward with the project. It is simply a precaution that allows the reimbursement of prior expenditures if needed. I don't think there's any downside to adopting the resolution. I should add, it's also for future expenditures. But in this context, the prior expenditures is, we want to get it resolved as soon as we can, as early on as we can in the project, because I think it's 60-day expenditures incurred 60 days prior to the resolution or something like that, and then it's like 18 months into the future. So the earlier on you do it in the project, the more of those expenditures you catch, if that makes sense. But no, that's, my understanding from bond counsel is no, we're not obligated to even to issue bonds at
Thank
all,
you.
or even do the project.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox,
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Lee. Did you have any update at all that you wanted to provide in regards to the, I know you had a meeting scheduled today, if you had that, if there was any new information briefly?
We had a training that this afternoon that the Association of Counties put on at BSC, and it was very well attended. There were probably 150 people in attendance, and it was as high as 425 online. So these are, I should have said this first, this is training on HB 1176, which is the 3% property tax cap. Very, very well attended. People from all kinds of, every political subdivision probably, certainly every manner of political subdivision. I did catch someone from the state tax department on break, and I kind of brought up some of our concerns about sales tax and how that's going to impact us. And, quite honestly, this individual was on the assessing side, and so it wasn't really her wheelhouse per se, but some of the discussions that we've had, Chair Bittner, I related to her that we feel that there might be some significant legal interpretation here that may require maybe a state's attorney opinion or even all the way up to an AG's opinion. So I kind of discussed those discussions with her, and she concurred that that's probably where we're at. We did have an attorney panel that was present, but our situation is sort of unique with the sales tax, so it didn't come up. Although I do think it's going to become more and more of an issue as other counties have adopted this sales taxes to offset property taxes. So, and I did bring up the question, should we schedule something in the future, but she really felt that the legal route was probably our best bet at this point.
Okay. Thanks for the update on that. We've been having, just so you know, Commissioners, Lee and I have been having significant conversations about how the 1176 is going to impact Burleigh County and how that's going to relate to the mill levies versus the sales tax versus everything else for property tax reform in Burleigh County. And we're working through those. I think we're going to work closer with the state tax department now. We'll find the connection there. It's been recommended to me by one of the legislators that wrote 1176 that I just contact the state tax commissioner directly, but I thought I'd wait until after this meeting they had today. So if you have any specific concerns or questions about that, let me know, and we'll kind of direct that to the state tax department and state's attorney, lawyer. I'm pretty sure we're going to need to chat a little bit about what we'll need for an opinion. So when you have time, if you wouldn't mind, give me a call. Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, thank you, Lee. Appreciate that. Appreciate the update. And item number 9, Commissioner Bakken, Bismarck Burleigh Public Health Discussion. Oh,
Public comment policy.
forgot it's laying right here. Okay. Public comment policy, this was just handed to us ahead of the meeting here, and I think that there's been some changes made based on the conversation at the last meeting. Commissioners, what are your thoughts on this?
Do we need to open up because again, the discussion was if somebody speaks at public comment, just so it's not a free-for-all later, do we want to limit somebody being called back up to those who have already spoke at a public comment at the discretion of the chair? That would be the only thing I would consider an addendum being made to this. Otherwise, for me, it looks good. Because that was the discussion we had about if somebody speaks up, if the chair allows, then if a commissioner wants to call somebody back up who already spoke, then that's an opportunity to get more information. But otherwise, we're in a situation where it's a continuance of a public comment period in which anybody can come up, but if you want to come and speak on that public comment prior to, then I think that would be a little clarification in the language.
I agree.
Okay.
Other than that, it looks good to me.
Okay. I'm not prepared to approve the policy then at this point. I want to see that in writing. And I thought we had discussed whether or not we would have time limits, and time limits would also be at the discretion of the chair. I see it kind of got wrapped up into a sentence that public comment may be available during each agenda item at the discretion of the chair, but I think we were intending that discretion of the chair applies a little more broadly than that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have any particular time limits in mind, except that sometimes, you know how it goes.
Sometimes you need to cut somebody off.
Right.
Yeah,
And it was more for the sake of repetition.
right,
So.
right. You know, along the lines of, you've probably heard it if you've been to the state legislature and they've had committee meetings, and they'll say, you know, we're going to limit it to, you know, 1 or 2 comments on the same thing, and if you agree, then, you know, you sign the thing that what you think, and then it just eliminates excessive repetition. So
Yep.
there's no intention in my mind to limit the public at all. As a matter of fact, I want the public to be able to speak as needed and wanted. I know I was given that opportunity long before I was a commissioner, and I appreciated the ability to say what was on my mind for the neighborhood and the whole thing, so.
Well, and like I said, too, if somebody has something meaningful and adding to the conversation, I don't care if it takes them 25 or 30 minutes. If it's
Yeah.
something new and new information that we need to make a good decision,
Sure.
absolutely.
And that's where I think the discretion of the chair should come in, because likewise,
Yeah.
I feel the same way, and I think everybody that's sat as chair has the same sort of notion, that if you have good information and we're learning and doing the business, then I see no problem with that whatsoever.
That is our job, to be here to listen to our constituents.
So we'll take these comments now and we'll try to incorporate it a little bit better, and we'll put this item on the agenda for the next regular commission meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
at one time we talked about, I don't think we want to, but we talked about restricting the people that want to speak to Burleigh County residents, and I don't think we can do that. We haven't got it in here, but I'm just concerned that we get out of county comments and out of state comments.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Some pipeline comments and things. Are they here tonight? Just checking.
Nope.
Okay.
Had to ask.
Burleigh County resident, time restriction. How would you summarize your concern there, Commissioner Bakken?
just as long as there's new information being added to the conversation, just so it's not repetitive. You know, getting people that come up and speak on something for whatever that allotted supposed time limit is, and if they're saying the same thing, because I've been in meetings before where people will sit and read a mass email, and that's not productive.
Right,
You know,
sure.
when a mass email goes out and people come up and just read that, that's not productive time. And there's nothing being added to a conversation. So that's my concern about that. But if somebody has something that is adding to the conversation, I don't care how long it takes.
Okay, I think
Chairman?
I've summarized that. Commissioner Schwab.
Do we need to put anything in there about the length of time we would give Summit if they'd ever show up? By the way, you didn't make your call.
Jerry did it for him.
Yep, Jerry did it.
Yep.
So-
You did?
I usually wait until the end, but
Well, they might be here and left, you know. They don't get on the agenda.
other
Okay,
business.
well, we're going to move that forward to the agenda for the next meeting. Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 9 now, finally. Commissioner Bach and Bismarck Burleigh Public Health Discussion. What's on your mind?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioners, part of the Bismarck-Burleigh Joint Committee meeting, we had a pretty good presentation from Bismarck-Burleigh Public Health Director Renee Mock, and I wanted to have that opportunity to have that presentation put forth at this committee's level. There's a lot of information in there, and it was a lot of where the funding goes, how the funding is directed, and a little bit more than just a report. So I wanted an opportunity to bring Renee in to speak on that presentation we had last week. Renee?
Sure, I have paper copies for you.
Okay.
Is this one of those, that's one of those things we should have had information.
It was
in.
emailed out.
It was
for us.
emailed out,
Should
yes.
have been in our packet.
Yes.
Actually, Auditor Sponskowski sent it to us.
Thank you.
So I pulled the email up just to make sure.
Yeah, I did too.
That's, my email's not part of the agenda packet, so. Welcome,
Renee.
Renee.
Thank you, Chairman Bittner and Commissioners. Just to share what we discussed or what I presented at the Combined Commissions meeting, I wanted you to be aware of our funding sources. We are a variety of different aspects when it comes to when it comes to all of our funding sources. We get federal funding. In 2024, 33% of our total revenue came from federal funds. We do bill for some services, and we get fees collected for that, which comes in at about 20%. And then we get state aid funding specific for public health, and that's 11%. Our local tax levy is basically what is left when we take our revenue and expenses away, and what is remaining is the cost share between Bismarck and Burleigh County. And in prior years, it had been shared 75-25, with 75% being paid by the city of Bismarck, 25% by Burleigh County. And so just here to present the information. I know there was discussion on potentially seeing what the cost share would be for 2026. I did present or prepare with those numbers in addition to working with our city finance team, what the numbers would look like for 2026. Just for your awareness, we are in planning for the upcoming year, and we're moving forward planning level funding at this point. There is some uncertainties as far as how things are going to look. That relates to, of course, the tax cap at the local level, but then also some federal funding sources as well. But for the most part, it shouldn't change our general fund very much, because some of the federal grants that we receive, a majority of the federal grants that we receive, are actually direct expense grants. And so the money that is coming in goes out in direct expense. And so if there were to be a reduction moving forward, it could be in the federal fund grants item. Just to share for your awareness, if you're looking at cost share, the expense that we're looking at cost share for is the tax levy that we're looking at. If we did a 50-50 split, the city and county both would equally pay $1,200,620. A 60-40 split would be $1,440,745 at the city, and a 40% cost share to the county would be $960,496. And then if you kept it at the 75-25, it would be $1,800,931 on the city side, and the county share would be $600,310. Just in comparison from previous years, from 2026 contract, it looks like a 3% increase if you were to stay at the 75-25 cost share. And I have the 25 and the 24 contracts listed below there for your reference. So basically just would like to know what percentage we should plan for 2026 is what we're asking tonight.
So Renee, when you're looking at an overall budget, how uncertain are we to what the federal dollar side of that looks like right now?
So, Commissioner Bakken, for the federal side of things, we are currently waiting. A lot of our funding from the state comes from the federal level through the state health department and then down to us through contracts. For the majority, we've been told to plan for level funding. We have heard that there will be some reduction to certain areas. We're just not sure how much at this point. There is a proposed budget that was put forward through the White House, the federal budget, but that is a proposed budget at this point, and in September is when that would be finalized. And so we're not sure on the impacts until that gets passed. And so we're kind of giving it our best guess as far as what it could look like.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Munson?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Commissioner Schwab.
Yeah.
Thought you were asking.
Do we provide health services for illegal aliens?
Commissioner Schwab, I think you've asked me that before, and
Yes, I did.
actually, that is not something that we screen for. We don't have the means to screen. We've never screened for that. We serve everyone that comes through our office. So I guess that is not something that
So
we screen for.
MS-13 could go through the office and you would give them health care?
If they're coming in for a health screening and they fill out the paperwork, we're seeing them for services. We treat
Okay.
everybody the same.
I'll ask you that question next time.
It'll be the same answer.
You don't work for Summit, do you?
No, I don't.
So the city's ask was what our intentions are, and I don't think we're there yet, unless we want to have the discussion of what that funding percentage looks like. So that's why I brought this forward. They're trying to work up their budget now. Basically, it's gauging an interest on what the county would like to do on that portion of the share. So if anybody else has any questions for Renee, otherwise.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcox?
if these three different levels, 50-50, 60-40, and 75-25, we're doing 75-25, correct?
Correct. That's what
If
we've
we
done.
were to go to 60-40, that's a jump of what?
360.
360,000.
360,000.
More
Would
than
the city, would the city reduce their tax to the city
Yep.
taxpayers by that amount?
Yes.
I'm looking to Jason. He's nodding his head yes.
So, right here would be what they would tax the city, and that would be our increase, their
Right.
decrease.
They would decrease then?
Yes.
So it actually, for the citizens of Bismarck, it doesn't make any difference where it's coming from, correct?
Same
But
pot,
it
yeah.
makes a lot of difference to Burleigh County.
the county
Let me explain there.
Right.
With, we had this conversation about House Bill 1176, and it involves a 3% cap across the board for Burleigh County, and I don't think I'm in any position right now, knowing what's coming forward with the budget for this year, that I would even consider agreeing to a 3% increase in any specific portion of the budget until we have our budget hearings. I think that would be totally premature and ill-advised, commissioners, because we are going to be we're going to be up against that 3% right away. So I'm not making any commitments myself. Commissioner Munson?
And this is not to Renee, so this is not a question for Renee, it's a comment. The state increased their budget more than 3%, but they're holding us to 3%.
Yeah. It's
And I'm a
hypocritical much.
little upset about their abilities to do whatever they choose and then force us to hold. But anyway, on the other side for public health, as the portfolio holder, I've done some research on other things. We've talked, or you guys have talked prior to me coming to the board of possibly doing this ourselves, and I'm in the process of doing some analysis on what it would cost to hire nurses and hire people to run a public health service. And preliminary, I haven't found anything under $1 million. So part of my proposal, as we talked at the city county meeting, was in our best defense would be to be prepared to have additional money into our budget soon, so that if we do end up getting forced to have our own public health, we're not taking a large jump from, say, $600,000 to $1 million in our budget in one shot. So I will encourage at the budget hearings to have an increase from the 75-25, so that we are prepared at some point if that happens.
Right. I'll reiterate, we have got to be very careful with what we're going to do as far as any sort of increases for this budget year, because it's ironic, and I appreciate your comment about the state raising their budgets more than what they want to allow the local political subdivisions, but the simple fact is, it's going to be real difficult to be within that 3% cap without any changes to the budget. So I just would say, moving into the budget discussions and the committee meetings, be very cognizant of that.
Yep.
Because, 3% on, that's,
It's more than what we're looking at for offering our employees a raise.
yeah, right. Commissioner Wood?
Renee, have you had any indication on any grants for this year, for 2025, that have been pulled? You had one big one, wasn't there?
Yes,
400,000?
Commissioner Woodcox, we had, back in March, we had some funding that was retracted. One was for a contract for Community Triage Center, and that was funding from SAMHSA. That was pulled back. And then also some funding for immunization, health equity immunization funding, and some COVID funding.
And that has not changed, you lost that?
That is not
You
coming
can't
back.
appeal that or anything like that, or?
Correct.
Okay.
That was about 208,000, I think. That was.
And
pulled back.
next year's budget, you got 2.3 million in grants. You have no idea what's gonna happen there, right?
We're not sure at this
Not sure
point.
yet.
A lot of the state division directors have told us that they haven't received their notifications and their grant notice awards. So they're telling us basically it's hard to plan.
Be ready, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I want to reiterate one more time that the budget here apparently accounts for an automatic increase in the contract amount, a 3% increase from 20 to 25 to 26 without any changes whatsoever. And I want you to be extremely careful with that, because we're probably not going to be able to do that, gentlemen. That's just flat out. So, anything further on this?
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Actually, just on a side, because he's here,
Yeah.
Jason, did you have anything you wanted to add or not? Okay, thank you.
I think it's going to be a rough time for all local political subdivisions when it comes to budgeting,
Well, my biggest concern is we're in a little state of flux too, because as Lee iterated, state really didn't give a whole lot of thought process into a sales tax base versus a property tax base budgeting system. So,
Right.
and we at the behest of our County residents went down a different road, excuse me, a different road that they deemed as a better pathway in conjunction with us. And I think I am a little remiss that the state didn't take that into consideration, because the voters are the ones that made that decision.
Yeah,
Morgan County
and I
followed
did.
us,
Yes.
City of Bismarck followed us.
Yep. Yeah.
I did have some conversations with the legislature that wrote House Bill 1176, along with, his others, but, he feels we're in a pretty good position right now. They felt, according to the last conversation I had with him, he says that they knew that there was going to be issues, that there would be specific things, because obviously I had contacted him before, the session was over and everything, or during the session, and we had quite a bit of conversations, and I've been working real closely with Lee, and we're going to continue to have additional discussions. The goal really is to find out exactly what is the issue, because we have to understand the impact first before we can offer up some possible solutions for further legislation in the future. And so that's what we're working towards is figuring out exactly how it impacts us, how the sales tax is going to impact us, because realistically, there's not really going to be much of an issue this year, but in subsequent years, based on our thinking at this point, is that as the mill levies fall off and you replace it with sales tax, pretty soon you're not going to have those mill levies to add into that 3%. I mean, and so there's some confusion about that. But based on my conversation with legislators, that they were talking in terms of dollars. They weren't talking in terms of mill levy. So that's where we need to get to where we can understand the legislative intent. If the intent is that you maintain a specific dollar amount plus a maximum of 3%, which I argued against, because I think most people, and I'm sure most political subdivisions, are going to shoot up to the 3% whether they need it or not, because otherwise you'd be goofy later on. So if we were concerned about the mill levies, we know that after a 3-year period of time, then we'd really have a problem. And so we're going to work through that, and we'll work with the Association of Counties and legislators moving forward to try to address those concerns while we're doing this, what I think is pretty awesome property tax reform for the citizens. So we're just working through things that were unintended. Commissioner Woodcox?
Would it be possible for us to discuss a resolution or a recommendation or whatever you want to the state to have them hold to their expenses of 3%? Why not? We've got nothing to lose.
That's an interesting point, Commissioner.
We're talking about propaganda is what you're talking about, but it shows that we have a real burr under our saddle on what happened and what's going to happen to us and others also. So maybe other counties would get along with us and say the same thing, because they will never be able to hold their budget to 3%.
No, if you don't have that replacement reform thing, thank goodness, commissioners, that we took that action, because our citizens are going to be happy with that. I don't know, maybe that's something you want to kind of follow up on, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay, I'd like to hear more about that.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that particular subject? Auditor Treasurer Splonskowski, ND, North Dakota Association of Counties Committees.
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, this was an email that I received from the Association of Counties. Just to throw it out there to all the different commissioners in the state. There are some different committees that they do have as the association that they just invite any commissioners to be a part of if they so wish. So just throwing it out there to see if there's any interest.
Commissioners, do you have any interest in any additional committees or meetings or?
More meetings?
Hmm?
More meetings?
More meetings?
More meetings.
Yeah. I got an interest in less meetings myself.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Bakken?
So as far as the process, you just submit and they assign a.
So as far as the process, I would let them know and what commissioner is interested in what committee, and then
And just these 3 committees that they're looking for right now?
to my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
I think at this point, one of the ones that would benefit Burleigh County, but it's no appointments necessary, would be that legislative committee due to the conversations about
Right.
potential changes based on 1176, but I'm not suggesting any of us do anything with that.
So we have until July 29th if anybody would have an interest in this, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, think about it, commissioners. Maybe put it on the agenda for a future meeting, like,
Next month sometime.
yeah.
I can put it in
not
for
the
the
next-
last meeting in
Not the
July.
next meeting, but sometime
Okay.
in July.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. That way, if anybody has a burning desire for more meetings, you just speak up. Okay. Item number 11, other business. The first thing is the United States of America, 250th anniversary coming up July 4th. Commissioner Woodcox, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Happy birthday, Jerry, by the way.
250 years?
You were there, right?
Yeah. I was paid $2 now, it's worth $250 million. We got 3% a year. Next year, July 4th celebration will be big as far as the national effort, the state effort, county effort, city effort. It's the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. And so, since we've been looking at doing a whole bunch of things over at the Provident Building, I thought, well, why wouldn't we look into something for Burleigh County to do? And we did not. We had the anniversary of Burleigh County a couple years ago. We didn't do anything, so I was kind of disappointed that did not happen. But I think we got an opportunity next year to do something great. And my thought, and I'm asking for input from other commissioners, because we got some time, not a whole lot, but the south side of the Provident Life Building is big. It's 7 floors, and it's wide. There's an annex on the side, completely blank. It would be a great spot for a mural, and we could involve the city of Bismarck and Burleigh County and State Historical Society, and I don't know about U.S. input or not, but I think those three, plus a Native American input, and the murals that they have been doing. This would be the biggest one in the state, and it'd be probably the most important and the best one. And so I contacted Commissioner Bittner about putting it on the agenda to discuss it. And he said, well, he came up with a funding source that he happens to be involved with called the Fort Lincoln Foundation. And so I called Aaron Barth, who was the head of that, and he was just thrilled. He was excited. And I also talked to Dakota West Arts Council, Jason there, and he was exactly the same way. They were just thrilled. They thought it was a great idea. And we'd have input from all of the political subs here in town, but it would be primarily our project. But the Fort Lincoln Foundation, they've done several around town already, and they have a protocol, and they have certain artists that they have used. And so I've asked him to come at the next meeting, the July 7th meeting, for a 10-minute presentation on what they've done in the past and ideas on what we can do in the future. So I just thought I would bring it up now and let people think about it. If they've got any objections, now's the time to, our comments too, because I think it would be great. We could have who knows what we could put up on there, Burleigh County history and great big capital. I'm not an artsy person, so I'm not great on ideas other than I think this would be a great project. And according to Fort Lincoln Foundation, they do a lot of the fundraising, and so it'd be very little cost, if any, to Burleigh County or Bismarck. So I'd like any comment or any inputs. Anybody wants to kick in? And
Sure.
Commissioner Bach.
I couldn't agree more. I was part of the 150th for Bismarck, and
Right.
part of the reason I helped set up the Capital City Christmas was for projects like this, and we have donated for quite a few arts events. Actually, one of our first ones was the tunnel by the Heritage Center. We donated to that. So there's a lot of different funding sources around the community and around the state, and I think getting state involvement with something like this for 250 is showcasing a big art project in the capital, I think would be very beneficial. So,
Okay. Good. Commissioner Wilcox.
Commissioner Bittner right away said, well, what do we do about he thought we might be painting that whole south wall. Well, I did ask that question, and they do have some kind of a film they put over the first.
I would like to see
Then
this.
they do the
Yeah.
painting, and they talked about like 8 foot by 8 foot squares, and each square was dedicated to a different era or a different age or a different concept. So, and they could be changed
Yeah.
over a period of time.
I think up here on this particular building, there's a replaceable type
Yes.
of banner up there that says the 150th city thing. I was looking at that just on the way in tonight. I would only be concerned that it was a permanent thing because nothing's permanent and eventually it'll deteriorate and need, I don't want to be sandblasting the entire south side of that structure. So if we can come up with some sweetheart ways to mount it that's not structurally damaging and whatnot, I think that'd be great. And then a lot of these things are like the mural under the bridge, that's a pretty big one, under the interstate bridge. That was actually done off-site and then applied to the thing. So
Done quickly.
Well, it's like the art alley. I mean, that's.
yeah,
that's
it's
permanent.
done all the time. It's not,
Yeah.
we're not crossing any new bridges here,
We,
so,
we do applications like that, work-wise, all the time.
sure.
We could
Okay,
get
so there's
public input on ideas, different ideas that we might not even think about, so.
Okay, so we will have Aaron Barth from the Fort Abraham Lincoln on the agenda for,
Yeah, and I think probably after the next agenda, when Aaron's here, it's usually the
Is he here?
process is
No,
no,
he's not here.
for
Okay.
next time. But usually the process is setting up a subcommittee and starting to identify art sources and funding sources.
He
so-
was really enthused right away, he just jumped on it, so.
yeah,
I was very impressed.
he's an outstanding resource. And that includes, it's not just the Fort Abraham Lincoln Foundation, it's also the Northern Plains Heritage Area, which is established under federal law. And I've been a board member of that since its inception with, 25 years ago or whatever. So they fund a lot of these projects, a lot of in-kind stuff happens, matching grants, all kinds of stuff. So quite a few options. I appreciate you bringing that up, Commissioner. We look forward to what comes of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Charles White, Aram Capital Ventures, Missouri Valley Complex item. There will be no decision on this. Are you here and do you have some input for us?
I am here,
Okay.
and it's Orem Capital Ventures.
Orem, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just mispronounced it. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's a Latin word for gold is what it means. It's Orem Capital Ventures. What I do for them is I'm a land agent. So I find land and opportunities that are close to substations, and that is why I've kind of come to talk to you guys today to talk about the parcel known as 1990-001-001. It also has a 911 address at 3805 East Bismarck Expressway. That is county-owned land, and I am trying to bring to the table the possibility of a sale of roughly about 300 acres.
Did we lose you? You can continue.
I'm still here. Are you there?
You have something, just go ahead and continue.
What would it be for?
Yeah, explain what, if you know, I understand if you're the land agent, you might not know what the interest would be, but is there a particular project in mind?
There is not one that's completely dedicated as of yet. I have to figure out how much land I'm going to get and how much power I'm going to have. So currently there's several hundred acres to the north of this particular parcel that is also for sale by the state of North Dakota. So that will be coming up for sale sometime this year. It's my information that they were going to try to market it through a realtor for a while to try to get maximum impact on the pricing. So I'm just kind of in between figuring out how much land we have and figuring how much electricity we have. So I can throw out the blanket term, which strikes fear in some communities and strikes pleasure in other communities, and it is just a generic term encompassing several different things that are possible, but my hopes would to be open some type of data center in the area.
I was wondering if the state's attorney would be able to brief us briefly on what kind of process is involved with transferring or entertaining some of these thoughts.
I'll get back to you.
Totally by surprise, right?
Again, no decisions made, right? So you're not prepared.
No
Nope,
information.
okay. You might want to,
You know, I'm kind of wondering with all these data centers.
You're not on.
I'm kind of wondering with all these data centers they want to put in, everything goes boom and bust. They'll probably end up with all kinds of empty data centers. So why would we want one sitting around here? You know, because
I tell
once
you-
again, it's going to be just like Summit. Who gets the power? And data centers are credit card centers, et cetera. And they're sure not going to shut down. And there's not enough power around here. And then the citizens' houses, whether rural or in town, don't have the power because they're going to get, there is no law that says, or no ruling that says the citizens are going to get first power. I really have a problem with these projects.
I do too, with, you know, from what I've been hearing as far as the impact to the pocketbook of the existing citizens, if that's what you're referring to, is how it ends up costing us for the build out and the extra stuff. And I think that's something that's gonna continue to have a lot of conversation. That's also how come I can understand why they want to build right by that WAPA line.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's certainly a thing, but
Well, I'm a little curious on what the longevity of something like that would be, because a lot of the thought process that is going into these now is they need to be in a position to supply their own power on site. Because once it's on the grid, that's where the grid gets even more destabilized.
yeah.
So, you know, building in a location because it's got a substation there and the power there right now, I think by the time a project would come to fruition is probably moot. Just from the indications that I've been hearing. So, my bigger question is, it's like if something's coming though, it's like state or county, and who's the front-loaded benefactor of that?
Sure. There's a lot of unanswered
There
questions.
is.
Commissioner Woodcock.
That's within this, that property's within the city limits, so they'd have a huge input into whether we sold it for a, whatever, Summit might have put a pumping station in there. Who knows? So before I would approve something like that, even consider it, I would ever consider it, I wouldn't have to know what the project is. I mean, we can't sell a pig in a poke. And I know there were some restrictions on the land when we bought it from the state way back when, because it was supposed to be used for a fairgrounds. And whatever that means, we'd have to get a legal question whether we could sell the whole thing off to.
I've studied that quite a bit with the development that we've been working on out there, and there's a lot of language in the purchase agreement when we bought it from the state that it has to be maintained for fairgrounds. My question really would be,
It's kind of defaulted into county use for
right,
the citizens.
the citizens of the county.
I think, not to
time
interrupt,
that-
but I think the question is, are we in agreement with the terms of the original purchase or not at this point?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I am not aware of a single fair for a long time.
Almost
New
30
one-
years.
no-
30
no
years.
New ones.
No,
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Hey, I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, working on it is not the same
No.
thing as a fair and a fairgrounds use. So I think that the state's attorney is probably going to have to provide advice on
Yep.
a couple of things. And I guess we'll chat.
Your list is getting.
Mr. White, I guess you heard the conversation. If you want to present some additional documentation and information for consideration at the next Burleigh County Commission meeting, I would say that you would need to work with the county auditor on that.
What is that person's name?
Auditor Splonskowski. I think you've already been in
Okay.
contact with him. He's the one that
Yeah.
wanted to add you to the guy you've been talking
Correct.
to already. So, more information always is helpful. And I guess you could
I
also
would like to make a couple of
consider your
couple of comments and-
interpretation of state law. Go ahead and make comments. Go ahead.
just a couple comments on some of the things that I've heard. There has to be an understanding of what is called curtailable power and how that affects your community. And you also will have to understand that we have to pay taxes on electricity. So one of our smallest sites right now generates about between $70,000 and $80,000 in taxes to the state and about $32,000 in taxes to the county that we're operating in. Curtailable power is power that is being used when other people aren't using it. So if you think about a lot of irrigation in the summertime, in some of the communities that you have, there's a lot of power usage during the summertime, but throughout the winter, throughout the spring, throughout the fall, there's not a whole lot of usage. So what happens is that electricity just kind of sits there and doesn't generate any income for anybody, including the county, including the state. So when it's curtailable power, we come in and we actually stabilize the power grid because we're using the power when it's nobody else is. So we actually have decreased the rate in one of the communities that we went into because we were using the leftover power, so to speak. So this community rented a substation from a larger generation and transmission company to the tune of about $35,000 a month. Only about 20% of that substation was actually being used, but they still paid full amount of rent on the substation. So if you think of it, it's 100 apartments in an apartment complex when only 20 of them are being rented out. I come in and rent the additional 80 apartments and I stabilize rent for everybody. So that's kind of what this is. There is another side of it as well, that if there is a lot of power, then it could go into something such as an Alphabet, better known as Google, or a Meta, formerly known as Facebook, or a Twitter coming in, formerly or now known as X, or Microsoft, or something to that effect coming in, which may not be a curtailable load. So that's a discussion that we need to have. But where the power is where I go in and seek out land, and there's no utility that's going to allow me to come in and overbuild a situation that is going to give brownouts to a community. It's just not going to happen. And the gentleman that said he had indications where possibly the data centers were on the decline, and I 100% disagree with that. These data centers, from when I've been working on them, are becoming harder and harder to get. And it's kind of like the field of dreams. If we have a data center, people will come.
Mm-hmm. Just a follow-up question to that. Can you explain to me what Burleigh County taxes apply to electricity from that you would be paying?
I have not looked directly into Burleigh County and as far as what entity I'd be paying, but the counties that I'm in now, I have to pay taxes in.
Right. I'm not aware of any Burleigh County taxes on electricity, so, but I appreciate that. I guess we were interested in hearing more. Any information you want to provide and have an agenda item for the next meeting, you're welcome to do so. Okay. Anything else you want to add?
I'm going to be working on the power side of things,
Okay.
and the
Okay.
more power I can understand for the
Yeah.
area, then the more I would understand what we would want to propose to put in there and the
Okay.
space that we would use.
Good. Good. Before you go, Commissioner Schwab has additional.
The state is really can't wait to get projects like yours in here. It seems like, everybody from out of state gets grants and this. Are you going to be getting grants and stuff for all of this?
No, nothing that I'm aware of. We have 7 banks behind us. I have a goal to spend about $25 million a quarter to try to put data centers in. The bank that is behind us has taxed me with about $1.1 billion in future spending for data center projects just exactly like this. The the one thing that can come, which I have not looked into, North Dakota is a very new venture for me. One thing that can come is they will at times give us a state exemption on purchasing items to be able to put in the area. So there is another tax exemption that is in other states, but I've not looked into North Dakota at all.
Well, it sounds to me like the state would get more taxes out of this thing than the county.
Yes, they would.
Well,
Yeah. Don't sound
you
so
know,
good.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
That
to.
doesn't sound good.
Right. One of the
Now,
things.
if I'm adding 50 to 300 jobs in your community, I don't think that's a very valid point. It's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
And they're high-tech paying jobs. It's not like I'm adding a minimum wage job or a $10 an hour job. They're almost $30 an hour jobs.
Well, I can appreciate that. I think to save a little burden on all of us, including the state's attorney, might want to do some research. If you have legal staff working with you, you may want to do some legal research on how you're able to acquire land from a local political subdivision, and avail yourself of that information that might inform your presentation, Mr. White. Okay, so
Are you aware of something that I need to address?
well, yeah, there's state law about how political subdivisions can acquire and dispose of land and property. And it's specific in the North Dakota Century Code. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have those chapters and verses in front of me, but I think you would do well to avail yourself of that information to inform you moving forward.
Okay, I appreciate that.
All
We've
right.
got plenty of
You
them.
had anything else for us? I thank you for taking the
that's it.
time, and we'll put you on the agenda for, well, you have a conversation with the auditor if you're prepared to present information for the next agenda item, and if so, we'll add you to that, okay?
Sounds like I've got a little bit of homework to do, so I'll reach out to Mr. Splonskowski and
Okay.
hop on then.
Okay. Thanks for your time. We appreciate the input.
Thanks for
Okay.
your time.
Commissioners, that's the end of other business. Anything else for
Chairman.
Commissioner Woodcock?
I have a quick announcement that I should have brought up earlier, but 2 weeks from today is another Monday, and at 4 o'clock, we don't have a meeting that day, but at 4 o'clock, we'll be dedicating the municipal court. Judge Severn's courtroom over there at 4 o'clock, and we've been doing a lot of work on it, and we've got a lot of things going on, and it looks like a great presentation for Judge Severn. So it's his 42nd anniversary, I think, of being a judge for the city of Bismarck. So city's involved, and we're involved, and he's involved, and so anyway, it's 2 weeks from today at 4 o'clock
Okay.
Thank you.
at the judge.
Good. Anything else for the good of Burleigh County? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.